stay with us for that. All right, we'll be back to that in just a short while. Today's top stories now. Former nominated MP Mark Tor is dead. Tor died after a short illness at St. Luke's Hospital in Eldoret today. Tor was born in Ndebunet, Nandi County in 1952 and attended Ndebunet Primary School. He served as an assistant minister in retired President Daniel Arap Moi's government, but was forced to resign in 2001 to pave way for President Uhuru Kenyatta. He once served as chairman of the then East African Standard newspaper and unsuccessfully vied for the Eldoret South seat. He was a close aide of Moi, acting as ambassador at large and forging international political and economic links. Famously known as Bonadawa, Tor played a role in peace missions in Uganda, Sudan, Angola, among other countries. Tor was also a prominent farmer in the region and was also a close ally of top politicians in the Rift Valley region. Now, he also served as chairman of Lonro, East Africa. All right, we will join Caroline B. a little later on as she takes a look at the sentiments regarding, rather following Mark Tor's death. Now, Amani National Congress Party leader Musalia Mudavadi has been installed as the Luhya community spokesman. At a rally in Kakamega's Buhungu Stadium, Mudavadi was also declared the community's prime presidential candidate. Here's Duncan Hayemba with those details.
It's here at Kakamega's Buhungu Stadium where members of the Luhya nation flocked to witness a historic occasion that saw Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi coronated as a Luhya community spokesperson at 3:30 p.m. Rites that were performed by King Nabongo Mumia and chairman of Western Kenya region, former Minister Philip Masinde. Mudavadi, who is the senior-most politician in Western region, having been elected to parliament in 1989 and served as a minister for years, then ultimately as Kenya's vice president and deputy prime minister, promised to employ his experience in leading and guarding the community's unity.
I accept this honor with humility, kwa unyenyekevu na commitment. Na kikubwa zaidi, mimi nakubali kuwa mtumishi wenu.
Court Secretary General Francis Atwoli, the man behind the initiative, led the crowd in reading the historic Buhungu Declaration.
The Buhungu Declaration, Saturday, December 31st, 2016. Hii ndio gift ya mwaka mpya ya Mbaluya.
Even as the move continues to face resistance from some quarters both within and outside the Mulembe community.
Anybody in the Luhya community daring to ignore the resolution at Buhungu Stadium today, you will perish politically in the land of Mulembe.
Our numerical numbers become politically irrelevant. Na hii juhudi inafanywa hapa leo to make this region politically relevant. Mimi naunga mkono.
The leaders have promised to shake the nation politically in the 2017 polls.
Hii ni kuonyesha ya kwamba nyinyi sasa mmeona njia. Mmeona njia? Kabisa. Kama mmeona njia sasa.
Tumejenga Western Kenya upya. Tunataka tujulikane na tuheshimike. Kwa hivyo safari hii, mimi nataka tuungane tuwe kitu kimoja.
6 members of parliament from Kakamega County, including Senator Boni Halwale, together with the rest from Bungoma and Trans Nzoia counties, skipped the event. It remains to be seen what implications will be over this new development to Ford Kenya leader Moses Wetangula, who has declared his interest in vying for the presidency and who also skipped the Buhungu event. It's through the Buhungu declaration that Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi is formally endorsed as the Luhya community spokesperson. His first mission, he has promised to reach out to all leaders in the Luhya community to ensure that they approach the 2017 election as one team. Will that yield the results? Time will tell. Duncan Hemba, KTN, Kakamega County.
And so our Saturday night poll is regarding that story. We're asking you tonight, do you approve of the choice of Musalia Mudavadi as the flag bearer of the Luhya community? Do you approve of the choice of Musalia Mudavadi as the flag bearer of the Luhya community? Send us a text message. The number is 22155. Start with a yes or no. Brief comment, your name, your location. You can also send us a tweet at KTN News at Yvonne Okwaro. We'll be looking forward to your views. The hashtag is Weekend Prime. Now, the Attorney General says even as the government lawyer, he was not consulted about the ongoing debate on the now controversial election laws bill. I spoke to the AG a little earlier in a comprehensive interview that will feature tomorrow night on Checkpoint. But here now is an excerpt of that exclusive interview. But then they talked about the way in which the amendments were passed, the amendment to the initial law itself came from a bipartisan approach with a joint parliamentary select committee, and that if any changes were to be made to that specific law, that it should have been subject to more consultation. Some saying the majority side was sort of bullying its way with passing that law. Do you agree? Because there was also the question about extending the term of the Joint Parliamentary Select Committee or finding a different sort of body to midwife that process.
Well, as you will recall, when that process commenced a couple of months ago, I was invited by Parliament to talk to them about my own thinking of where we were in terms of the impasse around IEBC. And I advised in broad terms that if the worst came to the worst, we would have to let the commissioners go and we would have to rethink questions about timelines and so on and so forth. And much of what I told the committee was taken on board. But when they went to the drafting part, they did not call on my expertise, or rather the expertise of my officers. They did it on their own. So essentially it was a parliamentary initiative. In fact, I was shocked to read in the paper some politicians attacking me for failure to advise that the law should have been in one way as opposed to the other, when everybody who cared to follow the process remembers that it was wholly and exclusively a political process centered in Parliament. Indeed, the politicians themselves agreed not to make any alterations whatsoever. To the extent that now, on second thoughts, they seem to think that they didn't quite capture the essence of what they wanted. I think it is legitimate to reopen the question. Now, the direction that will go, I do not know. I have been summoned by the Senate on the Tuesday, and I intend to go and give them the benefit of my experience.
All right. Do you think, in hindsight, it should have been subjected to debate? I know both principals from Jubilee and CORD urged their members in the National Assembly to pass the amendments with changing not so much as a comma or a full stop. And we know and understand the process of lawmaking. In hindsight,
to the extent, the reason we first went to Parliament to look into this question was because we wanted to prepare ourselves for free, fair, peaceful elections. To that extent, that spirit must be retained, because we do not want anything that can poison the electoral process. To my mind, the direction Senate is going is a good direction, because it's a direction that says, let us reason together, all of us, and see where we can give and take, so that this ceases to be the issue, and the issue becomes building IEBC, capacitating it, getting it to procure what it needs, and revisiting the voter register, and making sure we are ready.
Professor, there have been some people that have said we cannot possibly be ready in time. My question to you is there any window in the law that would allow the election to be postponed? Or do we just say, you know, do or die, it's August, whether we can get this ready or not?
We must do everything humanly possible to do the election within the constitutionally mandated time. However, should a big if for some reason we are not ready, then it is better, in my judgment, to postpone the election within the limits of the law, other than have a deeply flawed election that can lead to instability of a nature that none of us want to see.
What would that provision in law be as you advise the country right now? And like we said, it's a big if, and we're seeing efforts being made to make sure that we are ready in time. But should we get to a decision like that, what would that window in law be to allow the election to be postponed from August?
There have been initiatives in the past that I'm aware of in Parliament. There have been bills that have sought to change the voting date from August to December. I believe that bill was defeated once. I don't know whether it was shelved or that is one way of going about it. That is to change the election date itself for all time.
All right, so there's lots more on that conversation I had with Kenya's Attorney General. You will get to hear his views on the two-thirds gender rule that remains unimplemented even as we head to the election. We also talked about Majority Leader Aden Duale's plan to have a censure motion against Justice Odunga. Is that an attack against Kenya's judiciary? All of that and more tomorrow night on Checkpoint, my conversation with Attorney General Professor Githu Muigai. That is tomorrow. That is in the new year. We're still winding up 2016 and we want to take a look at what's happening across various parts of the country. We have Murimi Mwangi, who's at the Governor's Ball at the Intercontinental Hotel. He'll be telling us what that is about. We also have Joseph Sabiti on the streets of Kampala, Uganda. So let's talk to Joseph. Good evening, Joseph. We understand the streets of Kampala come alive at night. What's it like on this New Year's Eve?
Well, absolutely. It depends on what someone chooses to do to welcome the new year. Usually, the worship places are filled, and so remember the born again, or rather the Pentecostal movement, has gained so much ground in the city. And so many of the pastors are organizing events during this night to welcome the new year. And so all the major stadiums and actually airfields around the city are venues of worship nights today. But I am right now, Yvonne, downtown Kampala, where some people have chosen to continue hustling. For them, it's about making money, even if it's a few years, a few hours, I beg your pardon, to enter 2017. For them, it's about selling their commodities and making money, making sense of the economy that probably has not been very well for them in the year that is ending in a few hours' time.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Joseph. You know, we know a lot happens on the streets of Kampala literally every day. I mean, before we let you go, I'd just like to talk about what Ugandans' aspirations are in 2017. We've seen quite a bit with the election and with matters, politics, the economy. But what's top of mind on the Ugandans' mind for 2017?
Well, a lot of things really depending on the political divide that one stands from. First, today we got a message from the president outlining his plans for 2017 and also as well trying to explain what he calls achievements of his government in the year that's ending. On the side of the opposition leader Dr. Kizza Besigye held a press briefing this afternoon and as well indicated the plans of the opposition, saying they are very optimistic that what he called a terrible year 2016 can be rectified in the next year. And so what I'm sure about is that there will be political confrontation at the earliest opportunity as we cross into 2017. But in regard to the economy, Yvonne, it's a very tough one. a lot of people are going around trying to make ends meet. The economy has not been very easy, especially for the common man on the streets, and as well as a number of big corporations actually going into receivership or as well as being taken over by the central bank. A case in example is the Crane Bank. That was one of the best banks in the country. And so in terms of the economy, there are a lot of tough times ahead. Probably wait to see what January 2017 will bring. But for now, Ugandans have mixed feelings. Many expect a tough year ahead, really.
All right, thank you very much. Joseph Sabiti from our sister station in Uganda, NBS. On the streets of Kampala, like you can hear, it's a vibrant atmosphere where he is out on the streets, many choosing to continue with the hustle, see what last coin they can make over the next few hours before 2017 rings in. Let's talk to Murimi Mwangi, who's at the Intercontinental Hotel, if we can, to tell us more about that governor's ball that has been slated for tonight. Murimi, so who is in attendance at this ball?
Good evening, Yvonne. The initial invite for this dinner to be hosted by the Council of Governors indicated that apart from the officials of the COG, a number of governors were expected to be in attendance, as well as senators. And this is going to be an interesting meeting, so to speak, because for the past 12 months, the institution of the Senate has been at constant loggerheads with the Council of Governors. But of course, it will be an opportunity for the governors to take stock of their achievements for the past 12 months, as well as to reflect on the challenges that county governments have been facing, and predominantly, of course, will be the issue of healthcare, the ongoing strike, and of course, corruption at the counties. The Auditor General has been on the case of most of these governors. And in fact, reading most of those reports, you might say that besides the challenge of fighting corruption in the counties, the county governments also have some work to do in as much as coming up with institutions to ensure that they collect more revenue is concerned. Therefore, quite an interesting time it is going to be, even as the Council of Governors prepares to cross over to 2017, Yvonne.
Yeah, thanks very much, Murimi. We'll check in with you a little later on to see how things are going over there. Of course, you mentioned the frosty relationship between the county government and the Senate, the Council of Governors and the Senate. And also just to remind you here, our ongoing coverage on 47 days of accountability, focusing on those audit reports from the Auditor General on just what is happening in the counties, in your region, whether your money is being used as it should, continues here on KTN News, even through to the new year. You're watching KTN Weekend Prime this Saturday, New Year's Eve. We want to take a short break now, but we have more news coming up for you after the break.
Of streetlights. Millions of children did their homework at night under bright lights, where a few years ago their families slept early to save the kerosene in their lamps. In the past year, millions of Kenyans who would have suffered from malaria escaped, courtesy of our efforts to increase the supply of malaria nets. This reduced days of work and school lost, and it saved many lives. We have improved public hospitals and put in place medical equipment that Kenyans in the past would have needed to travel to Nairobi at great expense to access. There is still far to go to make this a healthy nation, but we are moving quickly and in the right direction. Again, we do all this knowing that we must be healthy if our people are to be prosperous and employed. Our efforts are making headway compared to the rest of the world. The first Global Youth Development Index noted that Kenya has made the greatest strides in improving the conditions of young people in the past 5 years. The score for Africa was low compared to the rest of the world, but our continent is gaining ground the fastest, and Kenya is leading the continent. Fellow Kenyans, change does not come overnight, especially when we are digging ourselves out of immense poverty and ignorance, as well as conflict. Fellow Kenyans, I am proud of my administration's record. By August, I know it will be clear to most Kenyans that we have managed to do more than any previous administration and more than most other countries with a comparable profile. Like you, I am impatient to do more, to be able to tie the multiple projects and initiatives that we have undertaken into a powerful engine of investment and industrialization, so that at the end of our next term, which I will ask Kenyans to grant me, we will have an economy that is truly a lion in terms of the goods and services it produces. Young Kenyans will have many more opportunities and jobs as we work to continue to achieve this. Having said that, I want to say to all Kenyans, we will not allow our efforts and those of millions of Kenyans to be destroyed by politicians who seem to have embraced the lesson that confrontation and provocation are the only way for them to operate politically. They have announced demonstrations and even the so-called mass action in the coming days. Let us be honest with one another when assessing what they mean by mass action. In the past, when politicians have used this phrase, they have meant violence is on the way. I tell our young people, do not allow yourselves to be used so badly. These people care nothing for you. Their way is the way of division and agitation, not development and building. We must also be honest in assessing some of their actions since the last election. They have refused to accept in good faith the results of the last election. They have kept up a hue and cry that they were the victims of rigging, despite no credible election observer agreeing. They have threatened to make Kenya ungovernable. They have shouted insults in rallies and held the presidency, which belongs to all Kenyans, in contempt. They have even in past threatened to march to the seat of government and overthrow the government of the people. This, fellow Kenyans, is not opposition politics. This is disruption and undermining of our country. I reject these tactics, and I want to urge all Kenyans to reject them as well. Until when must we play with fire of violence to get power-hungry individuals into office? As we enter the election cycle, I call on all Kenyans to be peaceful and on all leaders to preach peace during the campaigns. Let me repeat, we will hold elections in August of 2017. The elections will be free, fair, and transparent. We expect all contestants to accept the results and play their role in building a Kenya of the future. Fellow Kenyans, we have urgent business with a bright future for our people. The countries of the world that have gotten rich in the past 50 years have been independent and are countries that have valued stability and economic performance. They worked on their infrastructure, they made their education systems world-class, they provided security to their population, they kept political conflict to a minimum, and focused most of their arguments on the economic strategies that should be undertaken. They were impatient with poverty and did not invite the lies of politicians who claimed that the solution to their problem was in the politics of division through lies and cynicism. I want to let every Kenyan know that we will not allow anyone to drive our country into violence. We will fight such efforts with every means at our disposal. We have not worked as hard as a people to be diverted to a useless and violent destination by individuals who have so little to offer. We will not allow anyone to interfere with the will of our people. The days of playing games with this country are over. We are a proud African people, the fathers and mothers of the world. It is here on this continent that civilization was born. It is here where the diversity and cultural heritage is the greatest in the world. It is here that the world shall find an engine for growth and prosperity in our young and well-educated population, as well as our abundance of resource. It is how to ensure that this is done that sustains me and pushes me to make every effort for Kenyans. Let me tell you what it is that I see in my mind whenever I think of what we are trying to build as a people. A Kenya that is industrialized and where decent jobs are available to anyone qualified and seeking it. We will be a Kenya whose people have the education to innovate, invent, and to deliver world-class goods and services. We shall sustain our economic growth so that we shall rise into Africa's leading destination for investment in manufacturing, logistics, tourism, education, and ICT. We will be secure and an anchor for stability in a region that will have overcome its destructive conflicts. None of this will come overnight, but considering how far we have come in the last 4 years, I know that we will make giant strides in the next 4 years. I intend to travel to every corner of this country in the coming months. I will listen to your concerns and work with you to make things better for you and your families. I invite all of you, and especially those in the opposition, to join me in the work of making our country continue to reach for its destiny of greatness. 2017 is our year of being honest and sober, firm in not being swayed and exploited, and firm in taking strong steps to secure the safety of our citizens and their property. Elections come and go, but Kenya and our families remain. Together, we are strong. I wish each and every one of you a 2017 of unity, of security and stability, of growing prosperity. A happy new year. God bless you. Asanteni sana. Thank you very much.
And that is the President's message to the country in the year 2016. We want to wind up KTN Weekend Prime on that note right here. I'm wishing you a happy new year, 2017. We'll be back with the 2016 year in review in just a moment. Thank you so much for watching this and all our bulletins this year. My name is Yvonne Okwaro Matole. Our sign language interpreter was Meresha Owiti. Good night, everyone, and Happy New Year 2017.